In this video, we're going to draw an inscribed circle. Okay, so in the first video, we showed a circumscribed circle, which is a circle around the triangle. But now we're going to do an inscribed circle, which is a circle inside the triangle. So the steps for doing an inscribed circle inside a triangle: first, one draws angle bisectors through two angles of the triangle. The second step then is to label the intersection of the angle bisectors and use this point as the center of the inscribed circle. And there is one extra step. As you can see so far, it looks sort of like the circumcircle, except we're using angle bisectors rather than perpendicular bisectors. But there's one extra step here. We have to construct a perpendicular through the center of the inscribed circle, which is perpendicular to one of the sides. And we have to use that perpendicular as a guide for adjusting our radius. So then we use the perpendicular to adjust our compass to the correct radius size. Okay, so these are the 4 steps that we need to draw a circumcircle. I'm sorry, an inscribed circle. So let's go ahead and let's draw our first angle bisector. I'm going to choose to bisect these 2 angles here. So this is how I go about doing it. I pick a convenient radius for the convenient width for the compass. It doesn't really matter what it is. Draw myself an arc. Okay, and now I can keep the same radius. I could use a different radius, but what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'll just keep the same radius. Put my point at this intersection point of the arc. So I want to make sure I know where my 2 intersection points are, over here and over here. I'm going to take the sharp point, and it doesn't matter what width I use as long as I keep the same width for both of the next 2 moves. So I draw myself an arc like this, and then I draw myself with the same radius, with the same width of the compass, an arc like this. Okay, now where these 2 meet, I draw a point, and now I connect the vertex to that point, and I have my first angle bisector. Okay, and again, I just want to make sure I draw it far enough, and I kind of missed a little bit. I'm just maybe a millimeter off, but that's pretty good. I want to make sure that I go through the entire interior of the circle, because I'm not exactly sure where in the interior the center is going to be. Now I'm going to draw a bisector, an angle bisector of this angle over here. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take the compass. I just chose sort of a width at random, but one that will be convenient. And I'm going to just carefully try and lightly so I don't, you see it tends to move on me a little bit. Let me kind of adjust it there and draw a nice smooth arc. Okay, good. So I've drawn a nice smooth arc. I'm going to label the 2 points of intersection with the side of the triangle here and here. And now I'm going to make another arc, putting the sharp end on each of those 2 points. One over here. Oops, it's slipping. Okay, let me do this a little bit more. I'm going to make this a little shorter because I don't want it to overlap with the other one that I did. So let me make this arc a little bit shorter over here. So I'm going to make one over here. Let me try to keep this. Okay, one over here. Good. And then one over here. Okay, and I just managed to get the intersection point, which is over here. And now I'm going to draw myself the angle bisector from that angle. Through this point, through this point. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I've got my 2 angle bisectors, and they sort of look like they're pretty good, right? These angles look more or less equal. I think I did a better job actually on the second one. But at any rate, this is where they intersect at this point, and this is where the center of the circle is going to be for the inscribed circle. The only problem is that I don't know how to adjust my radius. Okay, I don't know exactly whether to make it this small or this large. At least I know where the center is, but I have one more step to go in order to tell me how I adjust my radius. And that is to draw a perpendicular, and I'm just going to choose to draw it through the bottom side here. I could actually have it drawn through any side, but I'm going to choose the bottom side because maybe it's kind of like in focus in the view right here. And that's going to help me to figure out what my radius should be. So let me go ahead and pick any convenient length, but it's got to be a length that will intersect the line over here and will also intersect the line over here, the bottom line of the triangle. So now I've got my 2 intersection points here and here, and I'm going to put a double circle around it so I don't get confused with the other points that were there. And now, again, just like I did when I did the angle bisector, I've got to come up with 2 more arcs. First, I put the center of my compass on one of these points, and I create an arc around like that. Okay, and then I put the center on this, and not changing the width of the compass. Get this exactly right. Okay, without changing the width of the compass, I intersect that arc where it cuts across the arc I just drew. And there I've got my intersection point. I will now join this point to the circle, to the center of the circle. Let me connect these dots. Okay, and this is my perpendicular. Okay, now I have my perpendicular, and this is going to be very helpful because the point where that perpendicular meets the side is going to be how I'm going to adjust my width of my compass. So I know the center is at this green dot in the middle. I adjust the width of my compass so that it exactly matches the point that I found on the perpendicular like that. And now that I have that, I can draw. I'm going to try not to have my compass slip too much. I'm going to draw my inscribed circle. I'm going to sweep it around like that. Okay, now in case you can't quite see it, I will make some dots to make it stand out. And it's pretty good. It may be just a wee bit off on one of this end. It goes a wee bit outside on this side, comes around, and it comes pretty close to that side. So it's not a bad circle. It might be shifted a little bit to the left, It probably should be just a little bit more to the right over here and a little bit more to the right over there. And that's just the error in all the measurements that we did. But you can see that we come pretty close to inscribing a perfect circle inside a triangle, so that the circle touches the triangle exactly 3 times, 1 on each side. So these were the steps again that we followed. And just to discuss the steps again with the diagram, we drew an angle bisector to this angle on the lower left. Then we drew an angle bisector to this angle on the lower right. The angle bisectors intersected in this point right in the center here. Then we dropped a perpendicular, or essentially constructed a perpendicular through that point, perpendicular to one of the sides, and then we used that length between the center of the circle and the perpendicular to guide us in creating radius, and then we draw a circle around all the way 360 degrees so that we had our inscribed circle inside of a triangle.